I want to correct something. Music peaked in the 60s.
Hi, I'm Dallas Keller. I met Paul, my sophomore year of high school, which would have been his junior year, and with he and I and Peter Allingwell, we were like, the three of us were like brothers, and sometimes Paul felt like an older brother, and sometimes he felt like a younger brother, but he was always a good brother. He was funny. I mean, come on. I've been laughing at so many of those pictures so inappropriately. It's just ridiculous. Paul taught me how to play the guitar. Paul took me to my first concert. Paul drove me around before I had my license. Paul spent a lot of time with me. And I loved him very much. And some of the things we did, we watched a lot of TV, we played a lot of video games, and he was undefeatable, and that's something I will never forgive him for. And women liked him better, which is also something I will never forgive him for. I never met Kate. I hope to meet her someday. Paul told me a lot about her. She started sending me email messages, a couple weeks ago after Paul had come to Madison and we had talked, and he told me, I mean, he loved her, he loved insurance, he loved everything. He loved Boston music. And she told me that from what Paul had told her of me, that she felt he had chosen her because she was so much like me. Which, I didn't know how to take at first, but now I can only assume that it was because Paul loved me just as much as I loved him, and this is a loss. It's almost too much for me to bear. Paul became a man like that. It was so quick. I knew him when he was a boy on the verge, and he became a man like that. And he taught me how to do so many things, and I can see now that he was very integral to me becoming the man that I'm very slowly becoming. And he helped me with school projects. He was in a video for school. I don't know. It just so many things. And I'll miss him forever.
Good afternoon. I'm Dan Herman. Some of you may know me. I met Paul in 6th grade, deep within the halls of Valley View Middle School, and over the past decade, I've had the gift of growing up alongside Paul, experiencing our formative years with the closeness of brothers. Paul was an intellectually driven man, never satiated in life's quest for knowledge, a responsible human, more often concerned for others than for himself, and the consummate friend. I remember the immediate warmth and support the Ferris household provided for me. From our time playing pinball, to watching Saturday Night Live, from playing guitar to sharing books, to midnight showings of summer blockbusters. From nights in mine, to nights in his, to countless sleepovers in the Allingwell basement. From the Beatles, to an ill-advised obsession with Alanis Morissette, to our redemption in Radiohead. From entering middle school, minor thing of graduating high school, and my personal favorite, discovering girls and giving the rest up. He made his presence known and his impact on my life. I now feel truly blessed to live in an age where, though he lived in Boston and I in Arizona, Paul was still a constant in my life. He continued to provide support in my valleys, enthusiasm in my peaks, and guidance on the in-between. His happiness was emphasized by the joy in the lives of those closest to him. Paul Ferris had a profound impact on my life, at times providing solace and a haven for me, and at times taking our highest moments and making them better solely by being there. We discussed it last night, and our time for taking things for granted is over. Paul, you are an incredible person, an enduring influence, and one of my closest friends. I love you. I'm sorry the world will never see what you were destined to become, and will miss you forever. Thank you.
Peter, I both going to say a few words.
Also not much of a speaker, so I'm going to try to keep this short. I just wanted to get up here and share a few of my favorite memories of time spent with Paul over the years. Paul and I actually met in grade school, and some of my first memories of him involved hanging out at each other's houses after school. Some very fond memories of those early days. We used to play a lot of computer games. Paul loved Quest for Glory in particular. I don't know if any of you were computer game aficionados. And of course, as anybody who's ever been to Paul's house knows, we played a lot of pool, foosball, and pinball. In middle school, social life was, once again, often dominated by Paul's basement. I don't know how Roberta put up with it, but there are often in excess of 20 kids over at Paul's house on some weekends. Looking back, those are definitely some of my favorite memories from that period of my life, and probably part of the reason that I can actually claim, in all seriousness, to have enjoyed middle school. One more thing I remember from middle school is how Paul and I would always do our school projects together. For Miss Wilkie's English class, where we wrote some truly absurd stories, many of which ended with the main character inexplicably pulling off a mask and revealing he was somebody else at the end of the story, much to the surprise of the characters in the book and everybody who's reading the story. To Von Eschen's science class, where Paul and I actually did a project where we portrayed Watson and Crick, the discoverers of the DNA helix, which was probably a pretty awesome performance. I don't remember it exactly, but I have to imagine it was great. And middle school is also where we were first in singers together, Miss Leland's singers class, when I sort of first got this view of Paul in music, and even then you could tell he was really, really passionate about music in his life. And then during high school, too many good times to list here, as John was saying, could go on for hours and hours. So I'm just going to share a select memory, which is, or a few select memories. They're a bunch related to choir, concert choir, current jam, Chicago trips. If you want to hear stories, there's hundreds. They're great. There are also numerous schoolwork and basement-related tales. Neither here nor there. But the memory that really sticks with me from high school is that I would say at least a plurality of days that we had on weekends or over the summers, Paul and I spent together at either my house or his house or someplace. And we didn't do anything special. We watched a lot of TV, we talked a lot, we played a lot of video games. Paul was really good at GoldenEye for the N64. And I would ask him, I don't know, it seemed like one never-ending hangout that we had, and I can't necessarily point to anything specific special during that period of time, but it meant a lot to me, and it still means a lot to me, and I think a lot of what we talked about and just spent time there really sort of shaped who we both were, and it was a great time. And then the great thing about Paul is that our friendship didn't stop when we went to college. He went to Boston, I went to California. It's pretty far away, and I'm actually admittedly quite bad at keeping in touch with people when I can't see them on a regular basis. But Paul made doubly sure that we remained close at college. We'd visit each other during the school year and spend time together over the summers. Some of my best memories of Paul come from these college years when our friendship matured with us. Two in particular stick out. First is a memory of a few great dates we had together during the summers between college, and it actually wasn't us dating together, we weren't together. There were girls with us, double dates. When Kim would come in for the summer, he and Kim would go out with myself and my girlfriend at that time, Annika, and I think that the experience really helped bring Paul and I closer together. It was one of those things where we'd always talked about girls ever since our first girlfriend up through college. Like if I ever had a problem, I would call Paul and talk to him about girls. He was well liked by girls, and so it was a good thing. And I'm pretty sure that I heard a lot about Kate, and I'm pretty sure that if things had progressed and he'd still been around, like, God willing, one day he would have been the best man at my wedding. So the other memory from college, though, occurred when I was visiting Paul once in Boston. It was fall of 2004, and the Yankees were playing the Red Sox in the American League Championship Series. For those of you not familiar with baseball history, this was not a good series at the beginning for the Red Sox. They went down 3-0, including a particularly embarrassing 19-8 loss in the third game at home. Anyway, it was the night of Game 4, and I was out in Boston with Paul and Kim, and I'd never seen Fenway, so we decided we should just go out there. We were going to eat dinner in the city, and walk by the stadium and just sort of take in the carnival that was Game 4 of playoff baseball. And it was amazing. We saw ESPN filming. It was just a whole carnival, and even more amazing was that there were all these people scalping tickets, and we thought, we're 3 college kids. We don't have a lot of money. We're not going to be able to buy a ticket. But I don't know why. So out of some morbid curiosity, we asked one of the nearby scalpers what he was selling tickets for. He was willing to sell us 3 tickets. Because I guess there wasn't a lot of demand, being that they were about to get swept at home. That were face value each about $100. He gave it to us, the 3 tickets, for $75. So we bought the tickets, and for those of you, again, who don't know much about baseball, that ended up being one of the greatest games in recent baseball history, and there's nobody I would have liked to share it with more than Paul. So there are countless more stories that I could tell, but I'm not much of a storyteller, especially up in front of a crowd like this. So I'll bring to close here with a few parting thoughts about Paul. There's been a lot of talk since his passing about Paul the musician, Paul the student, Paul the handsome young man. But Paul wasn't the best student I knew. I don't think he was the handsomest guy I knew. And maybe he wasn't even the best musician. But there was one thing about Paul that he embodied more than anyone else I know. He was, simply put, the most genuinely good man I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. Never once saw him lose his temper. Never once saw him raise his hand in anger. He always tried to do the right thing. You know how in cartoons, when somebody's dealing with a problem, they get the little devil and the little angel popping up on their shoulders trying to tell them what to do in their decision? Paul was the angel of my conscience. I knew if I ever took my problems to him, he would tell me to do the right thing, and encourage me to act in a way that he knew was right and I knew was right. And knowing Paul made me want to be a better person, and my friendship with him shaped me very much how I am today.
That wasn't ignoring you. I know when you came here today,